Okay, I am June McNeil. I am the Vice Chair of the North Middlesex Regional School Committee, and Craig is going to be on a few minutes late, so I'm going to go ahead and open the meeting. So I open this meeting of the North Middlesex Regional School Committee of February 6th, 2023. This meeting is on Zoom for Governor Baker's order suspending certain provisions of open meeting law. The public can access this remotely via Zoom through the link provided on the website, and this meeting is being recorded. We will start with a roll call. Is David Carney on? Do not see David. Jessica?
Yes.
Lisa?
Yes.
Randy?
Yes.
Tom?
Here.
I don't see Mike Morgan. I don't see Susan Robbins. And I am here. So that's that. All right, the next scheduled meeting of the North Middlesex Regional School Committee will be held at 7 p.m. on Monday, March 6th, 2023. And first on the agenda is the public hearing for school choice. So do I hear a motion to open the public meeting?
I'm sorry, June. I think we're gonna push that off.
Oh, okay.
It was already on the agenda and posted for the public hearing, but I think we're gonna push it off to the next meeting.
Okay, that works for me. Well, in that case, then we will open the public hearing for the 2023-24 proposed budget. Do I hear a motion to open the public hearing for the fiscal year 2023-2024 proposed budget?
So moved.
Thank you. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay. So going down the line, Jessica,
Yes.
Lisa,
Yes.
Randy,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
and I am a yes. So we will start the meeting. Superintendent Orion, would you like to begin?
Yes, but it's saying that it's disabled to me to share my screen. So I'm trying to share my slideshow, and it's coming up as it's disabling me from being able to do that.
All right.
I don't know, Nancy, did you want to try? Maybe you have the ability to do it, and you can just turn the slides as I go. Some of them are yours as well, but.
Oh, hold on. We might be able. Can you try now? I just changed it to hosts and panelists can share.
Yep. I just changed a setting too, so.
So I'm hitting desktop 1. I'm sorry, it's not working. Yep. It's going to work for Nancy. Perfect. Thank you, Nancy.
Thank you, Nancy.
Nancy, would you mind sharing the slides, and I'll let you know when we get to a slide where it's your turn. Okay, we can go to the first slide.
I just wanted to unmute myself so you can hear me.
Sure.
Is everybody able to see the slides okay?
Yes. Okay, so the focus for FY 2024 is, as always, to present a transparent and responsible budget that will meet the needs of our students and staff. This year, we accomplished this again through a series of 4 budget summits. We started the process very early on with district and town representatives, holding a summit in October, November, December, and January. For next school year, North Middlesex is looking ahead at the additional challenges. We always try to look ahead from FY24 also into FY25 with the realization that although this year is challenging, as you will see, all 5 of our collective bargaining agreements and our busing contract all expire at the conclusion of next year. So although this year is challenging, and I think that that's been described in the budget message, was also described in a brief update that went out this weekend, next year is also going to be a challenging. From a collective bargaining standpoint, we are doing a compensation study with several comparable districts in the area and some of our dark districts as well. We're also closely monitoring the outcomes of recent work stoppages and settlements that have been reached across the state. For transportation, we are in communication with districts that had expiring contracts with our bus company this year. And again, just trying to project what our agreement or what the proposal we may receive next year will look like, with the realization that they will likely again be the only bidder with North Middlesex. And again, those bids for this year are looking quite high as well. So next year, I would assume would look the same. Some of the unknowns that we still have in this budget, and then that's why it's not, certainly not final at this point, is we've seen an increase in contractual price as the district is presently negotiating a contract for FY24 and beyond for special ed transportation. New positions has become very difficult to find highly qualified staff, and finding staff that are qualified may take us out of our desired salary range that we budget for some of our positions. We also don't know what homeschooling will look like for next year. Although the numbers dropped in FY23, they still remain significantly higher than pre-pandemic homeschooling numbers. They're still at almost double what they were in FY 2020. Enrollments are still fluid, and that's why, again, school choice has been put on hold. There are just too many questions at this point, and there has been some growth in some areas in the school district, and we want to make sure, as I talked about, again, in the message and in the update this weekend, we do have to be very cautious with school choice students coming in, that bringing in an additional student or two does not give us cause to have to hire another staff member, which is very costly, and the school choice funds just don't cover it. And again, there's just lots of questions with what kindergarten enrollment is going to look like. What will our homeschool returns look like? Who will stay in homeschool? What will move-ins and DCF placements look like between now and the summer? Circuit breaker reimbursement rate, because the rates are also set by legislation, it provides an inconsistent state reimbursement, and they're higher per student special education costs. So again, that's somewhat of an unknown. It's never a definite. Charter and choice assessments that come out with the governor's budget. Town assessments are currently only estimates. The governor's budget provides local minimum contribution requirements and certified foundation enrollment numbers on which the assessments are based on, and we will likely not have the governor's numbers until early March. Special education tuition, the increase in the number of referrals and evaluations and eligibility, particularly at the lower grade levels for students who were interrupted, whose learning was either interrupted or incomplete due to the pandemic. And then lastly, this is no longer an unknown, and this budget presentation is somewhat inaccurate, so I do want to put that out there. We learned today that the health insurance for active members, not retired, but active members, was voted at a 13.75% increase over FY 2023. Generally speaking, that increase has been between 6 and 8% for the last several years. We thought we were very safe in forecasting a 10% increase, and it came in 3.75 percentage points higher than what we forecasted. So as I'll point out later on, that has impacted our budget. It's increased it by about $153,000. Other causes for the increases, again, new students, state mandates, the influx of pre-K students who are special education eligible, post-pandemic social and emotional student needs, and a new district class size policy has led the district to having to respond by hiring additional content area teachers or paraprofessionals to maintain compliance with class size policy, hiring additional counseling staff to support students, hiring additional English language teachers per the recent DESE mandate, And so this is something that is somewhat new for us. Previously, we had an EL teacher in the district, and students would go to the school where the EL teacher was. We do have to offer EL services at the student's home school. And again, this is a mandate put out by DESE, so this has caused a staffing increase as well. Hiring additional special education teachers and paraprofessionals, behavior techs, and service providers to support the needs of our students and to maintain compliance with their IEPs. And overall, if you're looking at what last year's FY23 budget was after we reduced it by $300,000 and moving into this year and what will be the case likely next year if the budget passes, it is an increase of 15.7 additional staff. And so it's not all teachers, but it's 15.7 additional licensed educators, whether they're teachers or counselors, paraprofessionals, behavior technicians, over what FY23 had budgeted. Per pupil cost, these are 2021 numbers. They are the most recent numbers that are available. Through DESE, we are at 18,225 students. Again, I'll just bring back that school choice piece. This is what it costs to educate our students in the district. And a school choice student brings in $5,000 of revenue to the district. So it really does not cover the per pupil cost. You can look at some of our other comparable school districts in the area. What their per pupil costs are. We are $888 below the state average. And one of the reasons why ours is slightly high is much of the pupil cost is based off of not just the curriculum in the teachers and the learning that's taking place in the buildings, but also the number of facilities that you have in the district. So the overall budget represents a 6.34%, and this is where I said it has that health insurance number impacted our numbers overall. So it's actually now a 6.59% increase over FY23. So the numbers below the $3,872,741 and the $65,002,893. You would have to add 153,000 to both of those numbers for it to be accurate at this point. We did not do that because it changes the entire presentation, and we did not learn of this until this afternoon, and it just was not possible at this point in time. The 15.7 FTE over FY23 results in a total of 468.7 full-time equivalencies in the district. So that's what our staff would be for next year. Again, if the budget is approved, 468.7 staff members, again, based on full-time equivalencies. The breakdown, Ms. Haynes, would you like to take this?
Sure. So the increase of the 6.34% is largely contractual salary obligations and benefits, 2.97% of it. Special education tuition increases and expenses, 1.36% of it. The debt service, which at this point is, I'll touch on it a little bit later, but is a draft at this point. We're still waiting for one band to settle before we have the final, before we have the final debt service numbers. But right now we're carrying just under 1%, 0.87. Elementary and pre-K staffing, which we pulled out, which were increases in teaching positions, 0.85%. Our pending special education transportation increase is a 0.29%. Our Middlesex retirement assessment is a 0.22% increase. Utility increases 0.15. Assistant principal for Squanicook Early Childhood Center is 0.16. And then we've had some reductions to the budget, which we reduced the projected transfer to stabilization down, and it's a negative 0.25. We have some reductions in custodial staff, not staff members, but the grounds maintenance and facilities of minus 0.26, and then miscellaneous adjustments of minus 0.202. So this slide is a projection of the historical look back of enrollment for the district for all 3 member towns, as well as the entire district. And it's fairly level looking at this point. We had lost a large percentage of staff of enrollment the prior 10 years, but looking at this projection right here through FY24, is fairly level. We do have a projection on enrollment. This again will be finalized once the governor's budget comes out. But these are our projected, again, draft, not final numbers on the enrollment changes from FY23 to FY24. We have Ashby increasing just a tiny bit, 0.1%. Pepperell increasing 2.28%, and Townsend having a reduction in enrollment of 2.29%. Overall, we're projecting that Ashby will remain roughly under 13%, 12.83%, Pepperell at 49.25% of the district, and Townsend at 37.92%. Overall, it's 25 student decrease from FY23. And again, these numbers get certified through the Chapter 70 calculation, so they could change slightly. And we'll share those out once those are available. Every year we provide NSDEC, which is New England School Development Council, with our enrollments in various categories, and they project out 10 years out to the future. And this is right out of their report for the school years 23 to 33. And as you can see, again, the story stays the same this year, which is very level. Not a lot of change in enrollment going forward is expected. So we do have a scenario of what the revenue may look like. Again, waiting for the governor's proposal to come out. We're projecting the $30 per student for the Chapter 70, which is close to what we've gotten in past years. And an slight increase in the Chapter 71, which is the transportation reimbursement, which is based off of our actuals. And overall, the state aid increase is less than a percentage point, so 0.53% is what we're expecting. And again, that's the story is what makes it difficult for the member towns, because there's not, in this area, there's just not a lot of new revenue coming in. The district revenue is various categories, including what we vote for excess and deficiency, which is equivalent of a town's free cash number. The excess and deficiency that we're projecting to use for the 24 budget is $2,045,000, which is $600,000 less than we did in FY23. We're projecting an increase in our Medicaid reimbursements, and those are due to student services increased. We get reimbursed from the state for those through Medicaid. Our school choice is we're projecting a $500,000 revenue for school choice. However, we've been getting a little bit less than that the last couple of years with the pandemic. But there is a balance that we can access some of those funds. So again, we're keeping that level funded for next year. And investment income has been higher, so we've bumped that up in the district revenue. So overall, the district revenue is down $485,000, primarily due to the excess and deficiency not being at the $2.6 million that was in the prior year. Local revenues, the minimum local contribution is estimated right now. This includes things that affect the member towns, which again has not been released. The per capita income, the valuation of property, and the municipal growth factor, which is revenues such as excise tax and the like. So these again are just projections. A lot of it's based on what happened in prior years. But this number will come out more specifically with the governor's proposal. And then again, I put down here estimated total operating assessments because we don't have all the numbers yet. Those are just our best guess at this point. So stay tuned for the Chapter 70 minimum contributions, which, and again, trying to give the towns a number, it makes it very difficult if we don't know a good portion of that. If there's been a shift between the member towns, it can really gravely affect, one town over another. So we'll stay tuned with the Chapter 70 calculations. Our transportation assessment is estimated also, but we are lucky this next year to have a 0% increase for our regular transportation, and our increase is strictly due to special education increases that, again, are not final yet. The total local revenue is all of those two things together, our assessments plus the transportation. So we're looking at total local revenue of an average of 11.57 based on the budget of 6.34. The long-term debt, I mentioned earlier, we are waiting for one last calculation to come in for the ban that we just settled, and then we can finalize these numbers. The interest rate come in lower than we had projected in the borrowing, so these should come down slightly.
Thanks, Nancy.
Brad?
No, I can go. And again, I do just want to point out, because this is obviously some significant increases, and there continues to be communication through the Mass Superintendents Association listserv of districts that are in very, very similar circumstances to us. The most recent years seem to have hit regional districts very hard, especially regionals that do not have a commercial tax base, which we really don't have much of a commercial tax base. So this is something that it seems to be a state problem. There are surveys going around asking, if overrides are going to happen, will overrides be supported? How much over this year's budget are you, looking at the next year? And it does seem to be, North Middlesex seems to be in a very similar situation than many of our counterparts. And it's not just regionals, it's also comprehensives, but it is those regionals that are not rural, that are not urban, and that are lacking a large commercial tax base that seem to be coming in where we are, if not higher. We certainly have some regionals in the area that are close to 9% for an increase. So again, I know this is high, but it seems to be a statewide issue. So some potential changes. Again, the governor's budget is going to be released late this year because of the change in leadership. We do hope to have that number in advance of our March 6th budget hearing. And quite honestly, we're not sure if there's going to be any relief at this point from question 1 that is supposed to help out public schools in the Commonwealth through a tax. So again, not sure what that help is going to look like. We are hoping that we will get some additional funding from the government, and we'll get some additional support to help with this number. But again, some of the other things that we're looking at, we still do not have a GIC retiree assessment for health insurance. Debt service, the final payment for the ban that is scheduled on the 5th of February, which has already passed, is not determined yet. It will be lower than currently budgeted. State assessment projection, again, it's going to be based on charter and choice assessments as well. Property, workers' compensation insurances, we do not have numbers for that. The potential for reductions in staffing, but again, we have to look at retirees as well. And then elementary school enrollment levels seem to be pretty fluid at this point. So we just obviously have to be aware of that, that the last one, especially with regard to class size. I'm going to turn it back over to Ms. Haynes for E&D.
Sure. So we just recently had our excess and deficiency certified at $3,055,573. So that's this results of activity for the year of FY22. It was certified at that level. We earlier discussed that we were suggesting using $2,045,000 to support the FY24 budget, would leave $1 million, just over $1 million in E&D for some unforeseen activity during FY24. And this would result in using just under 70%, 66.93% towards the FY24 budget. Brad, do you
So
wanna-
again, yes, I can take this. So if you look at the enrollment, some of the class sizes are high. And again, we do have that class size policy. The problem is going to be is that right now we do not have additional staffing in the budget to account for any changes in class size. So if you're looking at the Varnum Brook, for instance, as an example, going down to kindergarten and first grade for that matter, and really second grade as well, pretty much every level in every section is very close to that number of 25. And generally speaking, once you get to 26, you're looking to mitigate that potentially with a paraprofessional or potentially with additional staff once you get up into the 27, 28 range. So the challenge that we are going to have is that we will not have the funds to cover those additional teachers if there is significant growth over the course of this year, because obviously we would be looking at a reduction if this budget doesn't pass. So additional teachers would not be something that we would be able to add to the budget. So again, you can see there are some challenges there. Varnum Brook certainly is going to have some challenges, potentially grade 2 at Spalding, and then you're looking at grade 2 at Ashby Elementary as being a potential concern as well. Enrollment at the middle school, we still have great class sizes at the middle school overall. Between the two, they're very comparable, and we're staying below 22 in all areas. You know, there are some that think 21 is the optimum class size to stay at or below 21. And I think we're doing a great job at the middle school level of doing that. The issue at the middle school level with potentially increasing class size to potentially, get to 24 or 25, because it's a team model, it is a different setup at the middle school model. So for instance, it's not, if you ever wanted to address a class size issue, say, in grade 8 in one of the middle schools to get them to 26, it's not like you can potentially reduce a teacher to get to 26 because it's a team of 4. And they're all content specific teachers, where at the elementary level, the teachers are generalists. So licensure comes into play and it becomes very, very difficult. So these are great class sizes for the middle school. And again, right now our elementary schools are quite high across the board. High school, again, if you're looking at the enrollment, it's still staying relatively stable. There is a drop, but we seem to be fluctuating between the high to mid 700s, and next year is representing a drop in 21 students. So again, class sizes there are really dependent on student selection. They certainly run into some class size issues with some of the electives and some of the specialty courses, but overall class size is in a good place at the high school too, outside of some outliers.
So
And then go ahead.
Yeah, this slide just is representing the breakdown of where the FY21 budget falls in by appropriation category. So administration at $1,500,000. I'm just going to summarize here. Instructional support, which includes teachers, anything related to teaching learning, 29 million. Pupil services includes guidance, also includes transportation, 5,206,000. Operations and maintenance of the buildings, including utilities, we're at 5 million, just under 5.2 million. Retirement insurance programs, including active and retirees, and other insurances, just over 11 million. The debt service, 4.4 million. Out of school assessments and transportation is just under 8 million. For this budget, we are proposing 150,000 be transferred into other post-employment benefits, and 250 into the stabilization fund. Last year, we transferred 400 into the stabilization and 150 into OPEB. So we're suggesting a reduction on that. So the overall budget of a 6.34, not inclusive of today's news on the health insurance line. This is a visual breakdown showing that 45% of the budget is instructional related. The next category down would be in insurance and staffing, retirement programs, 17%. Next down is the out-of-district schools and state assessments. Next, we have operations and maintenance and pupil services, both at just under 8%. This transfer to stabilization is less than 1%, administration at 3%. Debt service at 7%.
Just the conclusion, again, I feel overall that this is a very responsible budget. I do feel as though, although it's an increase, it will allow us to provide what I would consider to be level services, just because of the current situation we have coming out of the pandemic. The priorities continue to be class size, and our teachers are important. Having a professional learning program and evaluation are critical elements of a successful organization. Making sure that we continue to serve North Middlesex Regional School Districts whenever possible, with students staying within our school district, making sure that we offer that we want to be the choice for our students to attend our schools. We would much prefer them coming to North Middlesex as opposed to going the private route. Equity does not mean equal. Some of our students do require more of our teachers and services in order to meet our rigorous standards. Making sure that we have quality early education programming is an integral part of our school. Technology is an important part of quality teaching and a learning environment, and making sure that our central administration and building administration continue to be agile to serve a complex school population. Questions?
Does anybody from the committee have any questions to start with? And then we'll open it up for public comment. All right, I don't see any hands up yet, but we can always circle back. I'm gonna call on, let's see, Mr. Quentin Cutler. Should be able to unmute.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Hi, good evening. Thanks for the presentation, team. And I just wanted to ask, when do you expect these numbers to get closer to final? I know there were a number of caveats here during the presentations about them being drafts or estimates. What is the timeline on the horizon to kind of get those numbers settled out to as close to final as you expect?
I would think that we should have final numbers just prior, in hoping that the governor releases the numbers prior to the hearing. It is our hope that we will have updated in pretty close numbers to what would be final for our March 6th budget hearing. And then once that happens, the budget message would be updated. All of these slides would be updated, and you would have hopefully accurate information.
Okay. Second question is on the E&D balance. The slide that you presented had approximately a $1 million balance left after the usage within the 2023 budget here. Is $1 million? Is that reasonable? Is there been a situation where the school would have needed, something close to $1 million? Is that, what? Give us an example of where that could happen. And I'm just wondering, is that balance or that rainy day fund, so to speak, is that more reasonably placed at, say, 500,000, 750? Why $1 million?
Nancy, do you want to start? And I can certainly add
Yeah,
to it.
I think, it's certainly something that could be discussed. I would suggest that maybe the finance subcommittee take a look at that. I think because we have so many buildings and not a lot of reserves or places to go for, should say a boiler go down or something, something change at the state level, like a 9C cut or something like that. It leaves some funding there to cover for, I'd say, emergencies or unforeseen things that we don't know now. In fact, the discussion about the proposal from the governor, this is a brand new governor, meaning the proposal will come out and then the House and the Senate will debate that. So we will use those governor's numbers, but they could come in, the House and Senate may not agree with them, in which case those may actually get reduced. So having something in E&D helps to support when those types of things happen.
Understood. I just wanted to get a sense as to what were the workings around coming to $1 million and getting comfortable with that number should be used as opposed to something lower. Final question then, in regards to the support from the state on transportation, we've had discussions in past meetings about how, and again, correct me if I'm going astray here with this, but I believe the situation is that we don't get fully compensated or fully covered for some of the transportation costs that we should. Has that been addressed in now, or is there still some leakage, if you would, between the costs that we're incurring to provide the transportation, which is required and mandated by the state, and ultimately the state's support for providing those services?
So nothing has been done at this point at the state level. As I've mentioned before, it's certainly a problem. We've been lucky, I think, during the pandemic in getting increased funding. But prior to the pandemic, we were getting about 70% reimbursement. The issue with us is that, as you had said, Mr. Cutler, we do have to provide, we are mandated to provide a seat for every student in the district on the bus, whether they're taking the bus or not, because they always have the right to go back. If a parent's driving, for instance, they always have the right to go back. So I do think that the problem is that, it would be very different if we were able to charge ridership fees, for instance, is most comprehensive districts do, because they don't get any reimbursement. So they charge ridership fees to fund their buses. We had asked previously if we would have the ability to charge the difference in ridership fees to bus riders. And we were told that we would not be able to do that. That would basically run counter to legislation. So we are literally at the mercy of whatever they decide to give us back for reimbursement. And it's been, again, high the past couple of years. And I do think that was due to COVID. Previously, it was around 70%. The district had to cover the other 30% without any additional help. And that is certainly a large number, especially when we're talking about increases of 21% for a 3-year contract, so on and so forth. But I do feel right now that our elected officials are listening. I do feel that they are bringing this forward and they are pushing hard, because it's not just an NM issue. It's an issue with Ash West, Air Shirley, Neshoba. It's something that we're all struggling with, and I do feel like our elected officials are working hard to try to get this moving at the State House.
All right, thank you very much. No other questions at this time.
Okay, thank you. Next, Eric Slagle.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. And I'm the town administrator for the town of Townsend. I appreciate the superintendent and the school committee for having this forum and presenting this information. I do have a couple of comments about the budget, and they, I don't want to presume to speak for the other towns in the district, but I can speak for Townsend. I say that the rate of increase that's proposed in this budget is not sustainable for the town in its current format. And I know that we've had the superintendent and the administration that had some very helpful budget summary meetings with various officials and administrators of the three towns. For Townsend's piece, I can say we, like the other towns in the district, are up against our levy limit. That means we have a 2.5% maximum increase that we can put onto the tax base. With other, smaller pieces of increased revenue, or total increased revenue is going to be approximately 3%. On a total budget of $25 million, that's $750,000 of increased revenue that the town has over the last fiscal year. That has to be divided between the town and the school. In the current projection, the 10% increase to Townsend, dwarfs the amount of increased revenue that we're going to have for this fiscal year. So this sort of this budget, I mentioned this practical, this budget is not doable without a prop 2.5 override, and not a small one, a significant prop 2.5 override. So if you want, I'm not suggesting that the budget was not thoughtfully put together. But I am saying that you have three towns that are experiencing the exact same increases in procurement costs, in energy costs, in labor costs that the school district is. And so while it's reasonable, I think, and fair to share the increased revenue that the town is going to experience with the district, we can't, in order to fund the proposed increase, the town would have to slash our budget by almost 5%. And that means, significant draconian cuts to the town's budget. So a prop 2.5 override is something that I think, if the school committee does go forward and approve its budget, I just want folks to understand that that's the route that's going to have to go. It's going to have to be that way in Townsend. And I would be surprised if that's not the case at all.
Mr. Slagle, can anyone else hear him? Because I can't make out anything he's saying.
Yeah, we're losing your audio.
I'm sorry about that. Try to move closer to my computer.
Yeah, that sounds much better.
So again, there's going to have to be a significant Prop 2.5 override
in Townsend and likely in the other towns for this budget to go forward as proposed. Quite frankly, even if this budget was the increase was half what's proposed, there would need to be a Prop 2.5 override in order for it to survive and for the town's budget to survive. So as long as folks understand that and realize that that's the reality, I think I would defer to the school committee and the administration and their expertise on the specifics. But understand that an override is something that we would kind of be expecting the school district to work, to educate the folks in Townsend as to why this sort of increase would be necessary and why that Prop 2.5 override is something that would be important for this town to do. So, thank you very much for the time. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Brandy?
Yeah, I just had a very quick comment to the last public comment from Mr. Cutler. Just as far as the $1 million left in our E&D, and correct me if I'm wrong, Nancy, we kind of run a fine line with keeping our savings up high enough that it doesn't affect our credit rating, because if we start to affect our credit rating, we do have debt, and we may help the budget, but our costs for debt will go up, so the amount that we have to charge the towns to cover the debt because of our credit rating going down kind of offsets any kind of money that we can put in. So we do have a fine line that we run. We try and put as much as we can into the budgets, but we do need to watch our credit rating.
Oh, thank you very much for that clarification. I appreciate it. And for the record, I am a member, this is Quentin Cutler again, sorry, but I am a member of the FinCom for the town of Pepperell.
Thank you. Do we have any other comments from the committee or the public? I know we have representation from a few towns. Mike Bussell. Allow you to talk. You should be able to unmute.
Hi, good evening, everybody. Thank you for the opportunity to just comment on it. And everybody understands the struggles the school goes through, the towns go through, and trying to reach these budgets yearly with these increases. Just so the school committee and everybody understands, similar to Townsend that mentioned, when budgets at the level that you guys have, $65 million, go up 5% and 6%, it becomes unwielding to these towns. For example, we have a $10 million budget. It goes up 2.5%. We can never keep up with the pace that the school is on for the last few years. Just an example, for the last 2 years, our increase has been about a little over $1.1 million. We don't even have a department in our community that has a $1 million budget. So it's very difficult to manage these increases. We don't see any internal growth. We don't see any capital expenditures. And over time, it becomes very hard for the town to manage itself. So similar to Townsend, and probably Pepperell is very similar. It's hard to manage these numbers. Everybody needs to really get on the state and come up with additional funding, because the math just doesn't work from the start. And I know everybody's trying to be as fiscally responsible, but you mentioned you're trying to level fund your budget, meaning, the way you operate the school district. We're unable to level fund our community the same way. So it's really a situation that we need to really rally around the state or someone to come up with additional funding, because to continue at this pace, even with 2.5 overrides and everything else, you'd be doing a 2.5 override every year to try to maintain the pace that we're seeing the costs escalate. Nobody's fault. It's just the world we live in currently. Everything has escalated dramatically and continues to escalate dramatically. And Brad said it, next year, we're struggling this year. Wait till next year. Like Brad said, it's easy to read the numbers that he's saying. You're going to see a significant increase because you have so many of your fixed contracts coming up that you can't predict right now. So we're all not going down a path that's sustainable at all. Just so everybody understands where we're at. It's important, and I appreciate everybody's effort they put into it. We're all in a difficult situation, and let's all continue to work together to try to come up with some type of solution long term. So thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Superintendent Morgan?
Thank you. Yes, I did just want to clarify, in case I did say level fund. I do look at this budget overall, although it's a significant increase, as a level service budget, with the exception of a couple of additions, primarily because in the post-COVID environment, the increased need for additional staffing, whether it be, again, to maintain good classroom size, or whether it be to offer students the special education services that we are legally mandated to make sure that we're in compliance with those, with the individualized education plans, and then obviously the social emotional components that students are struggling with after returning from the pandemic, and really a year and a half of changing educational models. Again, I'll just say I realize the numbers are high, but in talking with people statewide, the past year and a half has been really eye-opening to see the impact that COVID has had on our students. It's had a significant impact on all students, but when you're looking at the pre-K students coming into our district, and they literally were denied opportunities of learning how to play, and how to be friends with their peers. That's what schools across the state are dealing with, and it is causing an increase in services because kids were, for all intents and purposes, stuck in their homes. And some went without any educational services at all, just because of the fear of COVID. So it is something that's happening statewide. Again, it's the services are needed. So that these additional positions are, I consider to be, with the exception of a couple, level service to make sure that we're providing students with what we need to provide our students with.
Thank you. Tom?
Mhm.
Yeah, I just wanted to, kind of dovetail on the superintendent's point. I think not only are we seeing needs with those students, where they're not able to play or there are significant learning gaps and opportunities there, the class sizes are also significantly higher. So it makes it that much harder for our teachers and counselors to work with these kids. And we're looking at higher class sizes if a lot of this doesn't go through. And so understanding that the towns have to balance that, but there's going to be a significant impact on our kids as well.
Thanks, Tom. Are there any other comments from the committee or the public? I'm not seeing any hands going up. Oh, there's Randy.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, because I see there's an awful lot of people that are on this call, in this meeting, that aren't saying anything and they're listening to hear, is this process is just that. It's a process that we go through every year at this point in time when we have to give the budget out. We don't have good numbers to go by. We're doing the best that we can. We continue to look for places where we can save money. We continue to look for money coming in so we can reduce the assessment to the towns. This does not stop here. It never has in any past years. We continue to go all the way up until the town meetings with the best knowledge that we have and the most creative ways that we can do things. So anybody who's on the phone, on Zoom here listening, is we are trying to reduce this budget as much as we can while keeping the services for the children that we need to keep.
Thanks, Randy. Mr. Cutler.
Yeah, I'll just add to that. And again, this isn't the first discussion we've had either. The towns and we've had connections prior as well. So this is not the first attempt at kind of coming to an understanding of how much the operating budget will be. So there's a lot of work put into this. And for those that are listening in and wondering why the challenges that we're talking about are being discussed now, they are real challenges, and there's been a lot of effort put into by, the finance committees at the various towns, some of the select board members in some cases, and also the superintendent and his team. We have been connected and working, and it's a big problem, but we need to work through solutions. And I think there's been a good working relationship to date. And, we're going to continue to work through and try to resolve as much as we can.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? At this time, do I hear a motion to close the public hearing on the FY 23-24 proposed budget?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you. Randy,
Yes.
Jessica,
Yes.
Lisa,
Yes.
Tom.
Yes.
And I am also a yes. So the public hearing is now closed. And we are going to go right into our regular agenda at this point. So do I hear a motion to approve the consent agenda of February 6th, 2023?
So moved.
Thank you. A second?
Second.
Thanks, Jess. All right, going through roll call again. Jessica,
Yes.
Randy,
Yes.
Lisa,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
and I am a yes. And now we come to our regular public communications point on the agenda. Robin, did we have anyone signed up for public comment? I didn't see a link on the in the packet.
I didn't see, but let me check real quick.
Thank you. And while Robin is checking, next would be the chairperson's report. However, Craig is not here and I do not have a report for you.
No one's in public comment, so
Thank you, Robin.
you're welcome.
All right, so next up is the superintendent's report.
Thank you. I also do not have a report. It was just the budget tonight, but I would recommend to the people that are on the call, if you are able to go to the district website and take a look at the budget message, I do think that puts a lot of meaning into how we come up with a budget. It kind of tells a story as to what we start with and how we get the numbers that we've arrived at. So again, I know I shared something with the public over the weekend, but that was really a very pared down version as to what the budget message is. So if you do have the opportunity to take a look at it and see what we're doing, I think it would be helpful and probably answer a lot of questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Old business, I don't have anything on the agenda. So Brad or Robin, shout if I'm skipping anything. New business, I don't have anything on the agenda as well.
No, we do have some new business. I have an out-of-state travel. I just promoted Tim McMahon.
Okay, perfect. Tim, go ahead.
Great, thank you, appreciate it. So this is pretty straightforward. Mr. David Umstead, our band teacher, is looking to do, taking our color guard and winter percussion to Salem, New Hampshire on the following dates. These are all Saturdays, just two of them actually. February 18th and March 11th. The color guard would go those 2 dates. Winter percussion would go only March 11th. And this is simply for a competition for color guard and winter percussion in Salem, New Hampshire. Just want to get the out-of-state approval from the committee. That's all.
Okay, do I hear a motion to give out-of-state approval for the color guard and winter percussion team to go to Salem, New Hampshire on February 18th and March 11th?
Just real quick, I want to make sure that this is, if it wasn't on the agenda, this really does kind of fall under the, unforeseen business before this was posted.
So yep, I updated the agenda, so it was added and updated. And it was something that just came up, and obviously, I thought time was of the essence, so didn't know if we wanted to wait until the 6th of March. You certainly can wait to vote if you want, but I did update it and post the agenda.
Oh, okay, because I was looking in the drive. It's not on the one that's in the drive. So.
Yeah,
I'll look at that.
That was the one I was working off of too. Thank you, Randy. But one of the dates we would be voting on is February 18th. So we wouldn't necessarily be able to wait for our next meeting for approval. Did anyone want to make a motion to approve, or do you want me to read that all again?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, thank you. Randy,
Yes.
Jessica,
Yes.
Lisa,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
and I am a yes as well, so that's unanimous.
Awesome. Thank you, folks. Appreciate that very much.
Thanks. All right, so that is all for new business. So now we'll move on to subcommittee reports. Accelerated repair, Lisa?
Yes, we have a meeting scheduled for Thursday for accelerated repair. And then for finance, I'll take care of that one too. We have a meeting scheduled for Friday.
Okay, perfect. Regarding the Ashby Elementary Building Committee, we did have a meeting last week where the committee rescinded the request for a feasibility study. So that was also rescinded by the school committee. And this is because town officials have reached out offering $300,000 towards immediate repairs to that building to try to take the most urgent issues to keep the building safe, to keep our kids in. So our first meeting to discuss that will be tomorrow at 5 p.m. So there's a building committee meeting tomorrow. And then the high school building committee, I know Craig usually would give any update on that. So unless anybody has anything, we'll move along. All right, communications committee, Tom.
Yeah, I have no update at this time. We met a week or two ago, put together the most recent version of that quarterly newsletter that we're putting out on the website. So that will be, I'm going to have to review that and then just take any feedback from the committee and share that out. And then the other piece for negotiation and personnel, the subcommittee, there are no updates at this time.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. And policy, Randy, please.
We have a meeting on Wednesday morning. We have a couple of policies. Funny enough, we have the out-of-state policy or the travel policy up for discussion to try and kind of help the situation that we just kind of came into, whereas we have a lot of travel that's just over the border. And we don't need the school committee approval to go halfway or all the way across the state, but we do need to have school committee approval to go to Nashua. So we're going to be looking at that policy to try and make this a little bit easier for most of the travel that's within, local distance. We have a couple other policies we'll be looking at, and the regional agreement is we're moving forward, trying to tidy that up, still looking to have the updated regional agreement to the towns for the May meeting.
Great, thank you. At this point, is there any other business that was not anticipated? Not hearing any. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Thank you,
Second.
Tom. Thanks, Randy. All right, roll call vote. Randy,
Yes.
Jessica,
Yes.
Lisa,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
and I am also a yes. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.